It's time for another edition of Dome and Domer.
Hello again, Irish fans. Welcome back to Dome and Domer, the oldest Notre Dame sports podcast on the planet. I'm your host, Mike Sullivan from the class of 1990, and joining me today to discuss the regular season-ending victory over Stanford, Mike Coffey from the class of 91, and Mike Brammer from the class of 1990. Morning, guys. Hopefully everybody got a little bit of sleep. I'm sure you all stayed up to watch the game to the very bitter end as I did. I watch all the games live. And so for me, of course I stayed up to do that. But no, I did watch that. Before we get into talking about the game and the implication for the college football playoffs, let's take a quick look back in history on this date in Notre Dame history, November 30th. Just a few years ago in 2019, the Irish beat Stanford 45-24 to finish 10-2. It wasn't quite enough to make a New Year's Six bowl game. That's what we were playing for in 2019. It wasn't quite enough. We're hoping that last night's performance was enough to get the Irish into the college football playoffs. We'll talk more about that coming up. Let's talk about how the game went. I mean, I felt like we dominated the game, and it was a terrific performance. So, Coffey, we'll kick it off with you. Give us some thoughts on last night's performance.
Well, I think anytime you're in a game that your starting time was goofy, we have everything to play for, they have nothing to play for. It's you can put yourself in a bad situation. I like the fact that the team came out, as they have just about in every game this season. They came out ready to play. They didn't come out in a fog or, oh God, what are we doing here, and stuff like that. I mean, they came out and they were crushing from the get-go. I know there are people who look at the second half and say, oh, wow, we didn't do as well stopping them in the second half. But I think, what you may have to remember is in the first half, there were some Stanford receivers getting open behind our secondary, and the quarterback just airmailed on him. I remember 2 or 3 long passes in the first half that had guys open that they just missed. Now he just happened to hit a couple of those in the second half. So that's fine.
That's football.
Overall, I think the performance was fine. I think I don't think anything happened that would make the CFP look at Notre Dame any differently. And if Miami fans want to complain, well, tell them to go back in time and give us the 1993 national title. So. Yeah,
I would. A lot to unpack there. Bram, you got to love the way we came out, took care of business. Obviously, it's 42-3. The game is over early. It was over at halftime. Complete domination by the Irish. Give us a few thoughts, Bram.
Yeah, no, I think just the way that we asserted ourselves right from the get-go, and which is what we needed to do. I think it's for Notre Dame to give that argument of, hey, we're consistently dominating people from the time that we got our act together. Well, that held true. So everything kind of stayed the course with that regard. This is now down to the CFP and what they end up doing. And I think it's going to be indicative Tuesday night. I think we're going to know Tuesday night what happens. But in any event, I really like the way that we played. I thought we came out with a purpose, and give Freeman and the coaching staff a lot of credit because we were dialed in right from the get-go.
You got to love the depth at running back that we really flashed last night. Great to see. Love came out and was doing Jeremiah Love things, right? And looked good. And I really thought it was primed to have one of those games like Estime had a few years ago. Obviously, he gets the knee to the ribs, but then the depth really showed. Price looked great, catching it and in the ground game. And then how about Aeneas Williams? I really love seeing him have an opportunity to play in meaningful minutes, and he looked really good.
And that to me is, again, the common characteristics that we've seen under Marcus Freeman. Number one, the teams come out prepared and focused and ready to go, but guys who aren't starting don't sit on the bench and pout. They push the starters for minutes, and when they're called upon, they jump right in and contribute. I mean, Aeneas Williams, much less of a role under Juwan Sider this year than than he had last year, he would have every reason maybe to start thinking about, all right, where's my next destination? I don't like this at all. That didn't happen. Kid comes in, focused, runs 50 whatever yards for a touchdown. I mean, that's a sign of players that have bought into a culture and have bought into Marcus Freeman and what he's bringing to the table.
Yeah, you could make the argument that Cam Williams, with the block that he threw downfield to spring that touchdown, I mean, that's a guy that could easily be pouting right now, and just goes to show the culture of that team right now. Guys that are coming in and executing at a high level that haven't seen a lot of playing time in the little things, in the details, and that just is a real huge sign for us.
Absolutely. All of our receivers block. I love it, right? So that's just the standard, right? And everybody's on the same page. That's one example of it. I love the fact they talked about this in the broadcast, how great the offensive line has played. 3 starters that we expected to have from day one, we don't have, right? And so it's been a patched up offensive line. And hopefully we get guys healthy. Hopefully there's more football to come, a lot more football to come. But, just the depth of the program, and not just in the talent that we're recruiting, which we know has been, an uptick, but also everybody's on the same page and they buy into the culture, as you guys have said. I love it. Speaking of love, I referenced this earlier, hoping for a clear Heisman kind of night. I don't think anything happened last night to affect Love's Heisman candidacy, if you will, one way or the other. Bram, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the same argument. I think it's unfortunate that he did get hurt because I think he would have had a big night. I don't know why, but I think he knew it and was trying to really come out of the blocks firing. I just think his athleticism was on display as well. That spin move that he's got, man, that is ridiculous. I mean, it's hard to play against a guy like that can move that quick.
Where do you think he's going to finish up in the Heisman race?
I think he could be as high as 2. I think if it's going to depend on what happens next weekend with the Big Ten showdown. I think if either one of those quarterbacks doesn't have a good game, then I think he'll be 2.
I thought Sayan helped himself this weekend a lot, and I would think he is the front
I think
runner.
Mendoza's the clearly favorite, though. He's the favorite.
I thought that going into the weekend. I'm not sure I think that anymore. Coffee, how do you handicap the Heisman race?
Well, I think Sully, I agree with you. I think Sayan did. He certainly helped himself. Marquee game. He performed well. Wasn't spectacular, but he performed well. I think. I'm not sure who was actually watching the game against Purdue that Indiana played. I know I wasn't. So I don't know. I think Love will be invited to New York. I think he'll definitely finish top 3. I think unless the Big Ten championship game is just a slog and neither of the like a defensive struggle and neither of the quarterbacks play well, then maybe he can possibly sneak in. But I think, he didn't hurt his candidacy today, but I think another, I think another big game really might have given him one little extra push at the end. He didn't hurt himself, but I don't know how much he was helped either. Yeah.
How many get invited? Is it change year to year? Or is that a set number?
It's 5. Yeah, it's 5. Well, it's 5. It's actually the top guys who get significant votes. Yeah, because I think I've seen one or two years like only 3 guys got invited because it was such
on how the
such a runaway. Yeah. I could see him going 5.
I think the kid from Vandy.
If it's a close race and 5 guys are getting votes, definitely bring him out.
Yeah, I could see the kid from Vandy going to New York. I think Love, and then the 2 Big Ten quarterbacks. That's kind of how I see it at this point. But I was a little concerned of putting Love back in the game. Again, there's a ton of medical experts and people who have way more invested in this than I do. And they made the decision that it was obviously okay for Love to go back in the game. But it did make me a little uncomfortable with what's to come, hopefully, for the Irish.
Well, I don't think they would put him back in if there was any medical danger to him. That's not the way he rolls. But Agreed. I also think they put him back in. One of the main reasons I think they put him back in, even though he didn't really run the ball a lot after that, they wanted to show the committee that he's going to be available for games. They didn't want the committee to be thinking, oh, wow, Notre Dame's not going to have Julius or is not going to have Jeremiah Love for the playoff. Wanted to nip that in the bud. And
that could be spot on. I mean, that I hadn't thought of that. But if that was the thinking, then that was very smart. I hope somebody asked.
I liked the interview with Freeman right before the half, where Freeman said, "Hey, look, we're going to sit down with Mark. We're going to have a conversation with him, and he's going to make the call, but he's going to do it based on what's in the best interest of the team, not what he wants to do." And I just thought that speaks again volume about where the culture of this team is at. That's exactly what you'd want out of your top guy. Is, hey man, if you can help us win this football game, then get on the field. But if you're not ready to go, then don't risk it. You know, don't be a liability to us.
Yeah, time and time again, right? We just get glimpses into what is really a championship caliber culture, and I think the rest of the college football world is recognizing that as well. There's just an awful lot of Freeman love out there throughout the kind of the college football media and fandom. All right, I got to give Stanford a little bit of credit. I thought they had some fight. They played hard. And, I guess it was a nice moment to see Rick Meyer's kid come in and do what he did at the end there. Good for Stanford. They're going through a coaching change as well. We need Stanford to be good, right? I mean, we need these late season games every other year to be against teams that have some national reputation and help our resume. So I hope Stanford gets their act together. Let's talk about MVPs for the game. Again, not any one clear standout in my opinion, but Coffee, who would you give MVP to?
I don't know. I'm tempted to give it to Luke Talish. I mean, he was a 84-yard fake punt for a touchdown, played well. And, again, yet another example of someone who didn't pout when was passed over the depth chart and came back in and really made things happen. So
how about Josh Burnham throwing a touchdown pass?
Between him and our long snapper, who is able to send a snap to his 1 or 2 o'clock in order to make that pass. That's not easy to do, I don't think. So I love that play, but again, that's another one of those. It's great if it works. Tellus drops that ball, but it did work. So that was definitely my favorite for the game.
Okay, Bram, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Leonard Moore. I think most teams don't go anywhere near him, and for some reason Stanford went after him, and I think Moore showed why he is who he is. He just was stout. I mean, he's just all over the place, and his skill is so good. It was on display for the first time in a long time because they were thrown at him, and I think he delivered on who he is, and I think he was the guy that came out, at least for me.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Back-to-back great games for Leonard Moore. Of course, the pick 6 last week against Syracuse, and then another pick this week. He looked great. So I love that choice. I'm going to go with Aeneas Williams for the reasons we talked about before. I mean, he is, for an undersized guy, he is physical. He always seems to be getting yards after contact. And he's got, as we know, he's got a little wiggle to him, and he's a great receiver. So I'm going to go with Aeneas Williams. All right, let's turn our attention to college football generally over the weekend and what the weekend results might mean for the college football playoffs. Basically, it was status quo, right? Again, as we talked about this last week, there hasn't been a lot of chaos in college football. The ACC, of course, is a hot mess, right? But just in terms of big upsets happening outside of the ACC, I guess, status quo held true. And, we needed some chaos in our favor. We didn't get any of that. Now we're hoping there's no chaos next weekend that works against us. But at least we're down to, I guess, the known unknowns. We know what is what we need to keep an eye on now, and the variables are few. So Tuesday is one key. 3 things could happen, obviously. We're going to move up, we're going to stay the same, or we're going to get dropped. Bram, I know you have some thoughts on this, so we'll start with you. What do you expect to see on Tuesday?
I kind of think that we're going to flip-flop with Oklahoma. And the reason I say that is because if the committee is hell-bent on Notre Dame being in the playoffs, well, then that's what you do. You put them at 8 and you end that discussion and eliminate any kind of arguments after next weekend. If you keep them where they're at, then things got to go our way, because that bubble team could be us if some chaos ensues. And therefore, I kind of think this is a really key moment. I kind of think we're going to know Tuesday. There's a chance for us to know Tuesday for sure that we're in, and that would be us at 8.
You think we're going to move up. Now, call me naive. I would hope that the committee doesn't go in with an agenda that they then try to justify, like, we want Notre Dame in, so we're going to flip-flop.
No, it's consistent. It's consistency. They've dominated game in and game out, and they did it again.
Okay.
And you can't say Oklahoma dominated against an LSU team that was halfway good, I guess. But
that was not an impressive performance by Oklahoma. So, that would be wonderful. I'm not expecting to see it. Coffee, are we moving up, staying the same, or moving down?
I'm with Bram. I think there's definitely a possibility we can move up. I mean, I look at Oklahoma as a team and Notre Dame as a team, and there's nothing you can say that will convince me that Oklahoma is better. Their offense is terrible, and they've had they've had a couple good games against some good teams, but they've also had some terrible games against some mediocre teams, and we're lucky to escape with wins. I mean, now wins are wins, but if you're looking at those two teams, I really don't understand this whole, well, you have to keep Oklahoma ahead. Well, they're in the SEC, so they're good. Well, why are they good? Because they're in the SEC. It's circular reasoning, and I think it's ridiculous. I would like to see Notre Dame at 8 in this poll, just so we can put that to bed.
Well, I would love to see that as well. I guess I'm not expecting to see it. I think they're going to go with status quo, and at least in terms of 8, 9, and 10, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama. That's what I'm expecting. Here's how I see. I go Ohio State number 1, IU number 2. Let's pause there. You guys in agreement with that?
Yeah, but let's find out next weekend.
Yeah.
Well, we're just talking about Tuesday night, Bram. I'm not going to project into next Saturday. Tuesday night.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. I think that Georgia and Texas Tech will be 3 and 4. Any objections to that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think A&M slides down to. Yeah, go ahead, Coffee.
I really hope Texas Tech is 4, because then, Texas Tech gets the first round bye. I'm going to go all conspiracy theory here for a second, but the Big 12 has a very large financial interest in BYU winning next week, because then you get 2 teams into the CFP. If Texas Tech knows that if they lose their bye, that's going to give them a little bit of focus for next week and increases the chances that BYU gets booted.
That's some next level stuff right there.
I'll take my tinfoil hat off now.
Oh, man, blown away. I think A&M slides down to 5. I think Ole Miss stays ahead of Oregon. So 5, 6, and 7. I got A&M, Ole Miss, and Oregon.
I think that's a direct function of what Lane Kiffin announces today.
Yep.
If he announces that he's going to LSU, and if I'm Ole Miss, I do not let him coach I say, you know what, we're a one-loss team. We deserve to be in the CFP. If that means we don't get to host, it means we don't get to host. But I don't want this guy. He's leaving. I don't want him. I don't want him coaching in the playoffs. So
all right, let's pause on that, Mike. Let's pause on that. So if we think, and maybe they drop Ole Miss because Kiffin is expected any moment now to go to LSU. So if they drop them, like, I got them at 6. You guys are saying maybe they drop to 7, or are you saying they drop to 9 and don't get a home game? Because what is the real difference, 6 to 7? Is that, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they're going to punish them, no, right? Yeah. So I just don't know.
They might drop them to 9. I could see it going OSU, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, A&M maybe a little bit high, but then Oregon, some combination of Oklahoma, ND, and then Ole Miss.
I can't see that. I can't see them dropping out of a home game. But yeah, it's fascinating.
Well, it solves their dilemma about what to do with us, because, Ole Miss won't have their coach. You stick Ole Miss down below us, that's like putting a floor under us. That's really going to be difficult for teams to jump ahead because Ole Miss deserves to be in, certainly. Let's remember 13-0 Florida State got left out.
So I heard an interview with the committee on this. They've not seen Ole Miss without Lane Kiffin. Hey, we don't even know if Lane Kiffin's going to coach them in the postseason or not, right?
No, they
so
already
the committee,
said he's not. They've already indicated he's not.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The committee has not seen any evidence about Ole Miss and what they look like post Lane Kiffin. They had seen what Florida State looked like without their quarterback. And so that was the point of conversation that I heard this week. So would they theorize that Ole Miss is not the team they saw if Lane Kiffin is not there? I think I'm not sure they would drop them to the extent you guys are suggesting.
Well, he also calls their plays on offense. So, I mean, who knows? I could see it happening. It wouldn't surprise me if it didn't happen, but I could see it happening.
Yeah. So again, I could see them dropping Oklahoma. I don't expect it to happen, and I do believe it's going to be 8-9, Oklahoma 8, Notre Dame 9, Alabama 10. I'm okay with 8 obviously solves all the problems, and we get a home game. If status quo holds and we're 9, I have no problem playing Oklahoma in an 8-9 game whatsoever.
Absolutely
I think we can smoke them. Yeah. So
now the
you
downside
go to
of that is you get Ohio State in the next round, but
hey, you got to beat them anyway, right?
Sure.
So Alabama maybe at the 10 spot, and then 11 if UVA wins the ACC, they'd be at 11. If Duke wins the ACC, do you put the group of 5 team? We're projecting
Absolutely.
a further week.
If it's James Madison, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I'll tell you this, I would bet every ounce of folding money I can get my hands on. Next, the ACC is going to change their tiebreaker procedures that any more than 2-team tiebreak that doesn't have head-to-head is going to go to CFP ranking, because I am sure they are just absolutely grinding their teeth in North Carolina that this Duke team somehow finagled their way in. And if Miami has a complaint, it's with their conference people.
That's right.
I mean, they're not even playing for their conference championship. Why should they make the playoffs?
Right. And I think that ultimately is another data point that works in our favor here. So, again, let's hope that next year they get this fine-tuned and it's 16. To me, that's the right number. That's the right format.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if Tuesday is status quo, then all eyes go to the Big 12 championship and the SEC championship. And we just got to, watch, be nervous and hope that Texas Tech takes care of business. I've watched BYU more or less 3 games. I just don't see it. I don't see them as one of the best teams in the country. And I think Texas Tech could Alabama beat Georgia? Yeah, of course. But I think of those 2 games, I don't see BYU beating Texas Tech. So.
No, I don't either. And like I said, if Texas Tech is playing for a bye, they're going to want to kick the snot out of BYU just so the committee realize, okay, give them their top 4 and let them sit home and eat cheeseburgers and wait for New Year's Day.
Yeah. Yeah. So are we in agreement that if we stay at 9, then we don't have to worry about the Miami conversation next week? We just have to worry about the doomsday conversation, which is BYU and Alabama winning their respective conferences. Are we in agreement on that Tuesday will be the final sort of conversation around Notre Dame and Miami for the committee? Coffee, what do you think?
I say yes. I also think the committee might have an opportunity. I mean, if Georgia completely smokes Alabama and I know they've said we don't want conference championship games to affect things, but like I said, if Georgia totally smokes Alabama, there's no reason that they can't have both Notre Dame and Miami in there and totally settle that argument. Meanwhile, a 3-loss Alabama team who's not looked good in other games, I could easily see them being passed over.
Interesting. The whole question around do conference games, hurt you is a fascinating one, right? So, of course, the narrative
because if it helps you get in, it should hurt you to get out.
Right.
They shouldn't be playing these games anyway.
Agreed. So you look at it like everybody, well, Notre Dame doesn't play for a conference championship. They don't play their way in. Let's pause on this for a minute. Ohio State and IU are not playing their way in. That game is irrelevant to the college football championship, right?
Absolutely.
To the playoffs. It's irrelevant. And I think the same is true for Alabama and Georgia. I just don't think they're going to punish Alabama for losing an SEC championship game. I think they'll be in with 3 losses.
Depends.
So
yeah, I think it depends. If that game is 10, 14 points, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. 3-loss Alabama is going to get in over Miami. I don't know.
Yeah, that's Miami's real complaint. I mean, I realize I've given like 3 real complaints for Miami, but they should be yelling at a 3-loss. They should be yelling about a 3-loss Alabama team getting in, an Alabama team who lost to Florida State. I mean, if we're talking about losses in the first week, everybody seems to forget that Alabama got freight trained by a terrible Florida State team. So the committee had, if Alabama loses by 2 scores or more to Georgia, the committee has a perfect opportunity to say 3 losses, one of them a terrible loss against Florida State. Alabama, you're out. Miami, you're in.
Well, wouldn't that be nice? I would take it. I really don't expect that Alabama misses out for qualifying for their conference championship, arguably the best conference, and Miami playing in the worst Power 4 conference doesn't even get to their championship and therefore doesn't have, that potential for a 3rd loss. I can't see the committee leaving Alabama out if they lose. I really can't. But that's why we're going to tune in, right? That's why we're going to tune in.
Indeed.
Okay, Tuesday night's huge. Hopefully it sets up a huge Saturday. We're going to come back on Wednesday to talk about what the committee does and how it sets up for the weekend. Until then, for Mike Coffey and Mike Brammer, I'm Mike Sullivan. We'll see you next time on Dome and Domer.